Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today's guest is Pavel Stuklik, and he is founder of Noah Aeon. Pavel, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Super happy and grateful to be here.
All right, Pavel. So great topic today. So how ethical practices and relationship balance drive lasting business success. A lot of business owners, entrepreneurs, and executives that listen to this show, and lasting business success. Who doesn't want that? So excited to unpack this with you. And I guess on my end, just to get this started, Noah Aeon, whenever I see a company name or whenever I see a particular spelling and I don't quite get it, I'm like, there's a lot of thought that I'm sure the founder put behind this. Can you please maybe just start with that? Where did this concept come from?
Yeah, so crazy story. I used to be, extremely busy, burned out CEO. I was running Orange Theory Fitness locations all over the country. And essentially, I committed myself that every 3 months, I'm going to do something outside of my box and something outside of my comfort zone. And so I went to this dark room about 8 years ago as part of one of those, uncomfortable situations. And I spent 10 days in complete darkness in the middle of Thailand with no food, just water. And you probably wonder,
how many
days
did you say?
10 days.
And complete darkness?
Complete darkness.
Wow, go ahead. I just wanted to make sure I caught that right. That's amazing. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, so at this meditation retreat, and it was so profound for me. Well, at first it was extremely difficult because of this thing called monkey brain. And that monkey brain, is what I call this never-ending mind. It just keeps on thinking about future, past, and what do we do next. And sometimes it can run and ruin our lives. And because of this over-exhaustion of listening to all these voices, I wanted peace. And so basically it was day 7 inside of this dark room that I went into a complete state of, and for the first time in my life, I didn't worry about the future, didn't worry about the past. I went into this deep state of meditation where I just completely lost, all of that sense. And in that moment, I had this major realization, what am I doing with life? Like, why do I keep on chasing for, more locations, more money, more fame, whatever it might be? And I had this realization of Noah Aeon. And so what that is, it symbolizes duality. And essentially, my whole life, I've been playing, tennis or ping pong match. And what I mean by that, highs and lows and good days and bad days and high sales and low sales. And I was like, there is another way to life. And there is another way. It is coming back into harmony, health, and happiness. And that's the middle line, what it symbolizes. And so literally, inside of this dark room, I had this major realization that I got to follow my passions. And that's always been music. And I also got to follow my purpose, which was, how do I give this knowledge and all of these tools that I've learned from these crazy experiences to the world? And so that became, teaching and lecturing and doing retreats and workshops. And then the third thing that I got out of this dark room was, what type of legacy do I want to leave behind? And that became Noah Aeon as, how do I live in service to others, but yet still be able to function and, make true wealth and abundance in every situation of my life.
And so now you have this concept, you have this, and what point, and maybe it was immediate, so I'm just trying to get to the kind of the root of this. At what point do you know that this company is going to be like a significant focus in your life, and it's going to be possibly even a calling? Like, when does that happen?
Yeah, so it happened, kind of right after, was like that direct vision. And I'll tell you why, most of our life, we're so busy. We're chasing ourselves, let's say that we wake up in the morning, we go on the phone, and we get taken over by our notifications. We get taken over by our meetings and, whatever families, requests are. And then we forget to breathe. We forget to realize what are our passions, what is our agenda, what would I actually love to do today. And then imagine that we go like this for years or decades sometimes, with, chasing after great stuff and money and security, but then losing ourselves in process, losing our peace in process, and sometimes families, like it was for me, was able to achieve this incredible success at a really young age, but I got divorced and I lost so many different partnerships in the process. I also lost tons of money in that same space. And so I was like, how do we do this sustainably from a place of, true happiness? And so that's what I've been gifted in this experience, is this true sense of silence. So I can actually hear what do I want, and I can sense, where I want to go with this. And so that's really what, escalated in that process.
Talk a little bit more about your background. Like, were you always an entrepreneur? Where'd that come from?
Yeah, so I started my first company when I was 17 years old. I'm originally from Czech Republic, and I used to be a professional cyclist. Now, when I was 17, my dad gave me the choice, either go to school and your life is paid for, or do your little cycling thing and you're going to have to figure it out.
Yeah.
And so what I did, I filled a need, and this is many, many years ago, before Alibaba was really well recognized like today. And so I went on Alibaba and I started searching for carbon bike frames. And I found, the same type of bike frames that you would find that are $4,000 or $5,000 in, U.S. or Europe. And I found them for $500 to $1,000, at cost. And so I literally listed it on eBay, and then I start trading between Alibaba and eBay. And then further on, I created a whole, carbon business out of this. So that was actually my first business. Now, when I was about 21 years old, I basically completely, just lost it in a Czech national race. My body got completely overexhausted, and I got diagnosed with, Epstein-Barr, chronic fatigue, and I was literally sick every 2 weeks. And that was the end of my cycling career. And that was the pivotal moment for me to learn about health and, biohacking and how do I take charge of my own biology without using, drugs and all of the chemical stuff in our society. And so I moved to America after, and, I was searching in different businesses that would qualify for a visa, because, I couldn't figure out how to be here legally otherwise. And so at first I found a sushi restaurant in Boulder, Colorado. So for a little bit I was there, which later on didn't qualify for this. Then I found a frozen yogurt chain in Hawaii. So I moved to Hawaii, and I don't know if you remember the frozen yogurt era. And so I started licensing that, and I was a master franchisor, and then later on was supplying, the islands basically with the frozen yogurt. But I got sick and tired of basically making people fat, claiming that it's something healthy, and yet it's all full of chemicals. Yeah. And basically, I moved to Florida, and I found Orange Theory Fitness. And this is, at the early stages, maybe 6 locations open. And I was like 23 years old, and I ended up getting the Georgia State as a master franchisor, and without ever being there. And then further, I ended up growing it into 7 different markets with almost 100 locations under my belt before I sold it to private equity.
Wow, what a story. And so now, as you progress through I think this is a great transition. So you've obviously, and I wanted to set that piece of things, that you've been in business prior, like this wasn't, just something that came to you when you went on this retreat and these 10 days of silence. Well, the idea may have come to you, but it was a culmination of like all these life's experiences, right? Like all of the synthesizing and at some point coming out in you in the form of Noah Aon. Am I off on that? Or?
You absolutely got it. It's like the total sum of all of the different workshops and teachings and retreats that I've been on. And and this is what I basically did. As an entrepreneur, the one thing I was like, I'm going to do is every 3 months just commit that I will get out of the cycle, so that way I can go on this exploration. But then it wasn't until Darkroom where it was so clear that like, hey, like you can't just keep all of this knowledge or tools for yourself. You got to share it with others. And that's when I start hearing the calling to spread the word.
So in your work in Noah Aon, I know that some of the things that come up, of course, is like mind, body, spirit, like balance. How do you think some of these attributes can contribute to to business success? Because some people will listen to this and they'll say, I never do that, or okay, I get it, and but how does this apply to me, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So the way I look at our life and time is kind of in three major buckets. There is yourself, which is, made up of your physical, mental, emotional health, and that is your true wealth, right? If you are not healthy, you are not wealthy. It's something that I've learned in the early stages because we can do everything that we want, but we can only push it so far as our health goes. And so it always starts with you. And so for me, I am very regimented when it comes to the discipline I have within my own health. And I treat my own health just like a business. I basically have a dream goals. I break it down into a yearly, monthly, weekly, and daily basis that projects into how I spend my time. So that way, every single day, there is some form of exercise. There's some form of connection to mindfulness, meditation, breath work. Every day, I carve out a time that I spend on creativity and also education. And so that's kind of that first bucket is you yourself. How do you want to really thrive within your own self? Now, in the regular world, business or others a lot of times come first. And so I want to emphasize how important it is that you have to come back first. And that's the first bucket. The second bucket is your family and also your friendships, your spouse. And, in my learnings, I've lost my family because of the amount of time I spend in jobs and work. Essentially, this is every single day I call it the power hour. So I have a 1 hour a day that's just fully dedicated for kids. And then I have a 1 hour a day that is fully dedicated for my wife. And this is without cell phones. And this is, again, something that I've learned to be disciplined, just like any other meetings that we have, for our companies. And then I've got the third bucket is our company or career, mission, whatever we might call it. And so this is kind of how I treat time, because when you own your time, you own your life and not the other way around. And so essentially these are the three buckets, and I practice something I call the process of, and what I mean by this is I unhook in a cyclical way from that busy world so you can keep on coming back to you. And so once a day, the first half an hour or an hour a day, I spend just by myself. I wake up before everyone generally, and this is that time I do exercise, visualization, gratitude. I combine a variety of different practices that we teach to be able to really set in that intention. How do I want this day to be before the day runs me? The typical way is we just go on the phones and we get lost in it, right? We go just from one task to another. And so this thing avoids that. Now, once a week, I spend full day off without any technology, without food. I try to also fast once a week. And this is that cleanse and clear and also detox. But what I've learned is if you detox from your cell phones, TVs, computers, at least once a week, you essentially reload your dopamine levels, which is what we are being, hooked to all of these devices in our life. And that's what just keeps that monkey brain, going and going and going. I also spend the first part of the day just by myself. And then the second part of the day, I spend it with kids, family, and wife. And I use that to reassess how was my week? What do I want to follow the following week? And just like with a company, it's like the weekly meeting with myself. Now, once a month, I spend 4 days completely off. And essentially, it's the same thing. I do not touch cell phone. I go into, journaling. I spend time with family. And I unhook from the busy world. And once a year, I spend 15 days completely off. For me, it became the dark room. Of course, it's really extreme, right, for a regular person.
Yeah,
but
of course.
It's taking that time that it doesn't have to be that extreme. It's, shifting that focus on just you, your family, from the mission, from the work, so it doesn't define us. So we can really also re-identify where we're going. Who are we becoming? Is this making us happy? So we don't get lost in it. And so what I found is when I follow this cycle, I don't burn out anymore. I have this sense of ownership, but also ability to continue projecting where am I heading. And, it changes with time and it's not always perfect. It's also important to don't beat yourself up with a stick because we tend to do that as our society. But whenever I follow this, it's just completely altered the way I live. It brought me into balance.
Wow. And so I love the framework that you give. And there's only so much we're going to be able to do in one podcast episode. But I do know that this is the work you're doing day in and day out with Noah Aon. So that being said, Pavel, if somebody's listening to this or watching this and they want to learn more about your company, what you're doing, and really how it can help them, like what's the best way for people, well, two-part question, what's the best way for people to connect, and how have you found that maybe somebody's ready or it's ready for or they're a good fit, to work with you and your team?
Yeah, absolutely. So we work with, CEOs, executives, companies, and also individuals all over the world. We do it in 3 different ways. So we have a digital library, which if you go on our website, it's noaaon.com, noaaon.com. You can actually get a free access, and that's where we have literally over 80 hours of recording. There's also courses, and then we do live stream recording. And we do that either privately, so with companies, executives, or we do it, more in a group. Then we have over 100 events a year. So we literally travel across the world constantly, from city to city, to country, from retreats, summit, conferences, experiences, or immersive experiences that we curate. And then the third part is we also integrate technology. So one of my really missions in this has been bringing, for example, EEG testing to measure and show how our breathwork, meditations, and mindfulness practices actually are changing. And especially in the corporate environment, we can literally show you whatever your team or yourself is disengaged, or if you're focused, we can bring and help you get you to the focus. And that's the technology piece that we have on our website as well. And you can also find us at Noah Aon Official on any social media.
Fantastic. And for everybody that's listening, just so you know, we'll put all that information in the show notes so that you can just click on the links and head right on over. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters and you haven't done it yet, we welcome you to hit that subscribe button. This is a daily show. Each and every day, we're bringing you new content, new ideas, and hopefully new inspiration that's going to help you along the way on your journey. So again, hit that follow or subscribe button. And Pavel, thank you so much for coming on, man. It's been a real pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.